Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Tommy Callahan, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. And we're very excited about our show this evening. You notice we brought back the football intro for tonight because we're talking about the top plays and top performances of Tennessee football's 2023 season. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to start off with our top 5 plays. I'm going to go through and give my top 5 plays of the season in ranked order. And then to try to give maybe a little bit even broader perspective of the season as a whole, Rustin is then going to give what he believes is the top 5 performances, and that could be as an individual or as a team. And we would love to hear your response as well in the comments. So as I go through my top 5, you give us your top 5 in the comments, and we'll be happy to talk about those. And then we'll go through Rustin's top 5 performances because Vol basketball didn't have a game yesterday or Tuesday. They do not play until Saturday. And so we got a little bit of time here. So we're going to take this time to reminisce about a little bit of Vol football from 2023. So my top 5 plays to start us off. First play of the game, number 5. First play of the game against UTSA. Joe Milton takes the ball to the house. 80-yard touchdown run, the longest touchdown run from a Vol quarterback ever. So first play of the game against UTSA, my oh my, what a way to start that game. So that is my number 5 play of the year. My number 4 play of the year. Now, I'm going to pause this one too because I want you to notice what it says at the bottom of the screen. This is right before halftime. Tennessee was up 17-10 against South Carolina, and this play totally swung the momentum for the game in a huge, huge way going in the locker room. Kamal Hadden pick 6 against South Carolina, and that place was rocking, baby. That place was rocking. A little Dion primetime Dirty Bird there at the end too, which is nice. So that's my number 4 play. So number 5 was Joe Milton against UTSA, first play of the game. Number 4 was the Kamal Hadden pick 6 against South Carolina. Totally swung the momentum of that game. Huge play in that game. Number 3.
The more I watch that play, the more I just sit here and go, what a terrible pass. Like that ball was nowhere near where it was supposed to be.
Yep. Number 3, this play as well. Huge for the momentum shift in the game, and that is the D. Williams punt return for a touchdown against Texas A&M. If you look at the score, Tennessee was down at this point. We're in the second half already, and D totally turns all the momentum in Tennessee's favor on this return. Really, that one play swung the momentum of that game, and Tennessee never really looked back after that. And so that was my number 3 play of the season. Number 2. Now, this particular play is also from the South Carolina game. And, it's really tough when you're picking plays of the game or plays of the year because some plays were just really, really important because of how much they swung the momentum of a game, which the last 2 plays are examples of that. Some plays you put on there just because they're absolutely incredible, just absolutely incredible plays. This would fall into that category. Second play of the year, in my opinion, was Squirrel White's catch in the corner of the field down there. Oh, man, what a catch. And you got Tony Vitello in the background going nuts too, right there on the sideline. The ball went off his shin, and he still caught it. It was amazing.
So one other part of that play that people probably don't appreciate, that's a slot fade. The play call there is a slot fade. You typically, as a quarterback, are told to throw the slot fade at about 30 to 35 yards, back shoulder. Joe threw that ball 55 yards back shoulder. Okay, so you have normal quarterback slot fade. Hey, throw it about 30 yards back shoulder. Then you have Joe Milton slot fade, which is, hey, throw it 55 to 60 back shoulder. people don't understand. There are college quarterbacks whose best ball is 55 to 60 yards. Joe's throwing that ball 55 yards in the air to a spot. Like, people don't understand what a difficult throw that is.
And you got to love Tony V in the background. That just made it even better. Like, if you look in the top left corner of the screen, you can see him right there in the backwards hat, screaming and pointing. He's pumped up. He's ready to go. If I rewind a little bit, you'll see him here. Right there he is. You see him in the top left corner of the backwards hat. He's super pumped about that catch.
With a recruit.
Awesome. Yeah, with a recruit. That's exactly right. So that was my second play of the year. So number 5 was Joe Milton's opening touchdown, first play of the game against UTSA. Number 4 was Kamal Haddon's pick 6 against South Carolina. Number 2 was D. Williams' punt return touchdown because of the momentum swing in that game. Number 3 was D. Williams' punt return. Number 2 was Squirrel White, amazing catch, 2 against South Carolina. And I had 2 honorable mentions I'm going to mention right now before I show you number 1. One honorable mention was also against South Carolina, and that was when Brew McCoy essentially escorted McAllen Castles down the sideline as Brew blocked a dude for about 40 yards and just escorted McAllen Castles in the end zone. So Brew was an honorable mention for that one. And then my other honorable mention was the crossing route against UConn that Squirrel White had that Joe hit him in stride. And it went for like 80 yards, 75, 80 yards, something like that for a touchdown. Just absolutely beautiful play. But my number one play of the year, first snap against Georgia, Jalen Wright to the house. This is my number one play of the year solely because Neyland Stadium set the all-time decibel record for loudest stadium in the history of football, not just college, the history of football, pro and college, on that play. And so because of that, I mean, it was an amazing effort. You can watch Jalen Wright pull away from the defenders, which is another just incredible part of the play. But the fact that Vol Nation set the decibel record on that play, that made it my number one play of the year.
Man, I would have hated to have been number 23 on Monday in the film room. Like, that run fit was horrendous. Like, that dude could not have done a worse job. He's out of control. So everybody, literally every gap is assigned except that one. And number 23 is supposed to be filling that hole. And he's literally got his shoulders turned running sideways when he realizes, oh, wait, that's my fit.
There he comes.
Kudos to Jalen Wright for that right there. Like, that right there is crazy stinking impressive that he just outran those 2 DBs. But the hole itself, like, when you watch that back, you realize our blocking was just average. One dude, and it's the rule of football. If one person doesn't do their job, you're exposed. Number 23 did not do his job. Like, that's terrible.
And kudos to Cooper for sealing off that interior defensive lineman and creating that hole. And then, Jalen just had one guy to beat, and that was at number 23.
Well,
and he beat him.
Honestly, even Cooper, like, I'm more impressed with whoever the left guard was, because the left guard actually stalemated his guy. Cooper had an easy block because the nose guard stunts. So he just latches onto him and runs him past the hole.
So 78. So I believe that's...
Oh, no, he didn't even stunt. He just blocked down. Cooper actually had the easiest job on that play. The left guard actually did a heck of a job. I don't remember who that was at that moment.
Is that Dane Davis, 78, or is that Ollie Lane? It's one of the two.
It's Ollie Lane. Ollie Lane does a heck of a job right there. That's impressive.
Yep. So that's my number one play of the year. That's a pretty solid list in my opinion. Yeah. Let's see what some of those.
You chose the best 11 seconds of the year for number one because after the first 11 seconds, it wasn't much after that.
I just chose those 11 seconds because that was the loudest stadium in the history of football. That's why that play got it. Eric said, "What's up, Vol Bros? Hey, good to have you, Eric. Good you're with us, buddy. I'm glad." Let's see. Papa J, so glad South Carolina stunk. Oh, that's cool. HT14 said he's talked with D Williams on Instagram Live. That's cool. He said it was awesome, and I was speechless. Let's see. Papa J said that was a long throw, but he was still underthrowing all season.
But that's
sometimes, yeah.
But that's an intentional underthrow. That's a slot fade. He's taught to underthrow that one. So one of two things happen. Either the wide receiver sees it and catches it before the DB can turn around, or the DB runs into him because it's intentionally underthrown and gets a pass interference call. On the slot fade, every quarterback's taught, throw it back shoulder and throw it short. What I was saying was what's impressive is most quarterbacks are taught you throw the slot fade at about 30 yards. Joe's throwing his at 55, which is unheard of.
So Papa J has a really good play that I did not include, and you're right. I probably should have included this one. First game of the season against Virginia in Nashville. John Campbell at left tackle drove the guy he was blocking literally almost into the tunnel. Yeah, I mean, he stopped at the edge of the concrete in the tunnel. He blocked him so far.
Kudos to John Campbell. He was concerned about that young man's well-being and felt like he needed to go to the training room.
Yeah, absolutely. The only 10 UC said, "Hey, beautiful. Hey, well, good to have you here, only 10 UC. It's good to have you. We're glad you're here." She said, "Hey, beautiful people, what did I miss?" So I just did my top 5 plays. Number 1 was Joe Milton's 80-yard touchdown run to start the season, or to start the game against UTSA. Yeah, that was number 5. I mean, sorry. Number 4 was Kamal Haddon's pick 6 against South Carolina. So that was a good one. Number 3 was D Williams' punt return for a touchdown. Number 4, that second cut right there. Good grief, that was ridiculous.
Great block by Will Albright too.
Yep. Number 2 was Squirrel White's just unbelievable catch off his shin. And then number 1 was Jalen Wright's opening touchdown against Georgia, where we broke the sound record for a football stadium. Let's see. Papa J said, "Unfortunately, that was the only play we really had that game." And you're right. That's true. Let's see. The only 10 UC said, "We're going to pretend that game ended after that play." I like that. That's good. Let's see. The only 10 UC said, "My favorite play was Squirrel's pass interference catch nearly took his helmet off." So I'm glad you said that, because that was another part of it. The guy's hand was on Squirrel's face mask and his chin, pushing his helmet up, so he couldn't even see the ball really when he caught it. I mean, it was amazing. HT14 said his least favorite play was Brew getting injured. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally agree.
We'll do those next week.
Yeah. It'll be a really uplifting show. Tony said, "I love when Joe trucked that all SEC linebacker from Texas A&M and knocked him out of the game." Oh, that's a good pick too. That's a good pick, Tony. I like that pick. That's good. So that was my top 5 plays of the season, of the 2023 season for the Tennessee Volunteers. Rustin, why don't you give us the top 5 performances? That could be as collectively as a team or individual performances. Tell us what your top 5 are.
Well, number 5 is my official pick on Ricky Allison's behalf. It was Nico's performance in the bowl against Iowa. Fantastic coming out party. Anytime a freshman quarterback goes out there against what was supposedly a big time defense and accounts for 4 touchdowns, plays nearly flawless, makes great decisions. It was just a really impressive, and that's a heck of a job by Dylan Sampson too. But it was just a really impressive performance by Nico. Man, That safety for Iowa made a business decision on that play. Dylan Sampson was coming to block him, and he allowed himself to be blocked. That was not good. That was bad. He doesn't want to be in the film room on Monday. He might be in the portal right now, actually. They may have come in and said, yeah, you, transfer portal's calling your name. All right, number 4. And, at the time, I don't think any of us knew what we were watching. But number 4 was Joe Milton's last game as a Vol. His performance against Vanderbilt was unbelievable. 22 of 33 for 383 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then 2 more rushing touchdowns. So in his final game as a Vol, he accounts for 6 touchdowns and just essentially manhandles Vanderbilt in every sense of the game. Even this ball right here, that's just, people don't understand. That's special. That is not an easy throw. Pretty incredible way to finish your career. And I think people would have appreciated this performance more if they had known this was the last time they were ever going to see Joe play. Number 3 for me was Dylan Sampson at Kentucky. I think we got a preview of what we're going to get to see all of this upcoming year. He was definitely the spotlight for that game. Carried the ball 17 times for 76 yards and a touchdown. Caught 4 balls for 38 yards. So accounted for over 100 all-purpose yards on 21 touches. I think that was a preview of what this entire upcoming season is going to look like. I think they're going to use him in an Alvin Kamara type role where he's running the ball, he's catching the ball out of backfield. He's going to be the man this upcoming year, and I'm excited to see a weekly performance like this Kentucky game. I thought he really was exceptional in this one. Number 2 is similar to one of yours.
So hang on just a second. I think YouTube might not have liked that I was showing so many clips. Some folks in the comments are saying, can y'all see us now? Can y'all let us know in the comments if you can see us again? Because apparently YouTube was like, oh, too many clips there.
Okay.
So I apologize to our YouTube people. But I wonder if y'all let us know if you can see us. I don't think they can. If you're on Twitter, let us know if you can see us on Twitter. I can probably look at that one. So we're still on Twitter. They're letting us go. Thanks, Elon. Let's see here. Are we back? I think we're back. Papa J said, there we go. So, hey, we're back. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Thank you, the only 10 you see. Apparently, YouTube didn't like that. Twitter, we're still rolling on Twitter, man. They were like, show the highlights. We don't care.
That's weird.
So I guess we showed too many highlights there of the season. But so Rustin, give us. Let's. I don't know when it stopped showing us. So, so Rustin, give us your top 5 performances. So you started with Nico.
So just to back up, number 5 was Nico in the bowl game, accounting for 4 touchdowns. Number 4 was Joe against Vanderbilt. Again, I don't think any of us knew we were watching his last game ever. And to go out and get 6 touchdowns in his final game as a Vol was just an incredible performance. Number 3 was Dylan Sampson against Kentucky. What I was saying is he accounted for over 100 all-purpose yards, had 21 touches, and essentially I think we were getting a preview of what this entire upcoming season is going to look like. I think they're going to use him in an Alvin Kamara type role where He gets about 20 touches a game in a variety of ways and is kind of an all-purpose back. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him playing multiple 3-down packages with multiple roles within those packages. So I think we got a preview of what next year is going to be against Kentucky. So number 2 was similar to what you had given. And it's really just a 2-play individual performance by D. Williams. Against Texas A&M, Jackson Ross has a gorgeous punt. D. Williams plays it perfectly, downs it on the 1-yard line. 3 plays later, A&M's punting from the back of their end zone, and D. Williams makes a house call. So literally in a 4-play span, he pinned A&M on their 1 and then returned the punt for a touchdown.
I think that's a great choice.
Just an amazing individual effort, because both of those plays really, I mean, yes, there are other guys out there and other guys had roles in it, but the reality is a lot of that was individual effort. You've got to bust tail to get down there to pin that one on the 1. You've got to have incredible vision, and as Mike Eckler likes to say, be a fart in a skillet, and get through minutia holes and attack them at mock speed. And a lot of those 2 plays were just individual effort by D.
Absolutely.
So my number 1, I'm going to give to the entire team. I felt like it was our best overall performance in any game of the year, and that was the South Carolina game. I felt like we played extremely well in all 3 phases. Defensive line had an amazing night, just absolutely shut South Carolina down. Joe played well. The running back core played well. Receivers made plays when they had to. Special teams were extremely impressive that game. It was just the total package. And I spent the last 3 days in South Carolina. And this morning I was sitting in a conference, and the speaker decided to point out the fact that I was a Tennessee fan to the room of South Carolina fans. And it was so incredibly gratifying to just be able to look around, and go 41-20. The place got silent. Like they all just stopped. And then, of course, in true South Carolina fashion, one dude on the other side of the room goes, well, at least we can all agree we hate Clemson. So like that was their response to 48 or 41-20. It wasn't, oh, let's talk about last year. It was, well, at least we all hate Clemson. So I appreciate the University of Tennessee giving me the opportunity to use that score today. And again, I think it was by far the most complete performance of the year by everyone.
Well, I think you made some excellent choices, because I mean, that 6 touchdown game by Joe against Vandy, I mean, that has to be on there. Nico's incredible performance in the Citrus Bowl, that's got to be on there. Papa J mentioned that we could show on these plays of the year, we could show James Pierce Jr. like all day. Yeah. And he's right. We could do that. And honestly, one of the plays from James Pierce Jr. that crossed my mind for top plays was his pick 6 in the Citrus Bowl. That was an incredible play. I thought that your choice about the South Carolina game was a good choice as well, because, I mean, you got to think very early on in that game in the first half, Brew went down and the team responded incredibly for such a horrible moment, even Jacob Warren as his teammate responded incredibly, sitting there next to him on the field. You're right. That one play was horrible, but the way the team played the whole game was incredible, especially rallying after that moment. So I think those are excellent choices. Y'all let us know in the comments what your favorite plays or top plays and performances of the year were. Let's see. Papa J said Nick Saban's lurking. That's why we got shut down there for a second. You don't have anything else to do, so he's monitoring low profile Tennessee podcasts to shut us down. Eric said, "Great show, Evan Rustin, enjoying this. Hey, we appreciate y'all sticking with us through that little moment where YouTube wasn't liking the fact that we were showing plays, I guess. But so we appreciate y'all sticking with us. Evan said Tennessee was shutting down Beamer ball. That's right. And
Going to put it out of existence this upcoming year.
yeah. Well, Papa J agreed. He said Beamer's last season coming up and Napier's. I'd say that's actually a pretty safe bet. I would agree with both of those. Poor Billy Napier, man, he's got literally maybe the hardest schedule in the history of college football, and no players. So that is not a good combination. The only Tennessee said her favorite play was Davis dancing against Vanderbilt. I like that. Let's see. Papa J said, "Who are we going to snag from Misha Cheaters?" I'm sure if they have an offensive lineman that now. Let me say this. Depending on how you look at it, Michigan either played that brilliantly or totally underhandedly, one of the two. Because here's the thing, their classes started. So once you're enrolled, you can't transfer because other schools, their classes have started. So either they intentionally waited to protect their team, their roster, or and if that's the case, then that's totally unfair to those players.
Well, they can still enter the portal and announce they're transferring. They just can't do it
in
now.
the spring. Yeah, after spring practice.
I
So
mean,
those players,
it's not going to stop the tampering from happening. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I would venture to guess that if a offensive lineman for Michigan wanted to come play left guard at Tennessee, I'm sure that there would be a spot open for that person. Let's see. HT14 said, "When did you guys first start the Volbro show?" November 1st of 2022. That was our first show, November 1st, 2022. Evan said, "What are y'all's expectations for next year?" I'll tell you what, I'm going to come back to that comment because I'm going to pull up a schedule and we'll show it on the screen. Surely we won't get canceled for that, just showing a schedule on the screen.
I want to go back to the question about the portal.
Okay.
I think we have I think we have two positions of need and possibly a third that could be in play. As Evan said, I think we absolutely, if there's an offensive lineman out there that's a good fit who can help immediately, especially a guard, I think that's an automatic take. And whatever NIL package that kid needs, you make it happen. Safety is another position. Remember, keep in mind, Michigan runs basically the exact same defense that Tennessee does. So a safety in Michigan's system would very easily acclimate to Tennessee's system, or possibly even that star position. That's a guy that could come in and start right away and have a very short learning curve. And the other thing I would point out is this. In 2020, the linebackers coach at Michigan was Brian Jean-Marie, who is now the linebackers coach at Tennessee. 2024 would be a fourth year for any kids that he recruited to Michigan to play linebacker. So highly possible that a grad transfer or a kid that is about to graduate and can transfer after spring could very easily decide to make a decision to move to Knoxville to be with him. So not necessarily a position of need, but if a senior linebacker from Michigan who'd played a lot of snaps decided he wanted to be a Vol, I wouldn't turn him down. I think that's probably the three positions that are going to be most in demand at Tennessee. I don't see us taking anybody at any other position.
Evan asked, "Do you think the Michigan players leave?" Personally, I think it depends on who the head coaching hire is.
I don't.
I can't imagine that it's going to be Sharon Moore. I mean,
Well,
You don't give the first head coaching job of the defending national champion
so
to a first-time head coach. I just don't see that.
So I'll give them credit. Mac and Cube had the lead media guy for Michigan. You know, every university has a mouthpiece. They have somebody in the media that gets all the information before everybody else, so that it can be told the way they want it told. Tennessee's is Austin Price. This is known. You know, and the guy who is Austin Price at Michigan was on Mac and Cube this morning, and his take on that was Ward Manuel and Jim Harbaugh, Manuel's the athletic director, never got along. They didn't like each other. Harbaugh did what he wanted, ignored the AD. There was a lot of friction there. And he basically insinuated that Manuel was looking for somebody he could control, and that he and Sharon Moore have a relationship where he knows that he can control more. He said they will absolutely kick the tires on other people, but he also said they've known Harbaugh's leaving for 2 weeks. So like they've been confidentially kicking the tires on a lot of people. And he said, you know, the name that keeps surfacing is one that we've already discussed, Brian Kelly. Mark Stoops' name has surfaced, which I would be ecstatic if he got the job. Like that would be the funniest thing ever. But, you know, he said essentially Sharon Moore is probably the front runner for the sole purpose of Ward Manuel can control him.
Man, that's sad. That is dysfunctional. Only Tennessee said, I'm enraged we're not playing Missouri next year. I hope to see him in the playoffs. Absolutely. Revenge is a dish best served cold. So I'd love to see them. HT14 said, do you think Ohio State needs a new head coach? Because I don't think Ryan Day is a good coach. I think he's a good coach. I mean, he's, you know, consistently, I understand he's a product of his conference and his schedule, but he's consistently in the top 10 every single year. I am shocked that he's giving up play calling duties to Bill O'Brien.
In the last 3 years, Ryan Day has lost 5 regular season games. 3 of them are Michigan.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be cool if we'd only lost 5 games in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool. Mino, like you said, best play of the season, Joe Milton 80-yard touchdown run, first play. He said he got a flat tire at the 20. Evening all. Welcome, Mino Aggie. It's good to have you with us. That was actually my number 5 play right there. Awesome way to start that game. And kudos to Joe. He flat out outran some of those dudes, man. It was great.
So I never really fully answered Evan's question. He said, do you think Michigan players leave? I think in today's time and in today's NIL, it's a certainty. It's not an if, it's how many. And I think the 2 things that'll play into that are, number one, you know, who Harbaugh takes with him. There's a lot of rumors that he's taking his defensive coordinator with him to the NFL. Well, if he does that, half the defensive guys on their roster couldn't care less about Sharon Moore. They didn't come to play for an offensive coordinator. They came to play for that DC. And if he's gone, they're not going to hang around.
Yeah, good point. HC14 said, I was listening to the Jalen Wright touchdown versus Georgia in the car. Then I got home and we were getting dominated. That's a definite swing. It's a turn of events there. Absolutely. Absolutely. The only Tennessee said hiring Bill O'Brien does not a good coach make. That's fair. That's a fair assessment. JL, welcome, JL. Good to have you. He said, y'all may have talked about it. And they're a 2024 4-star linebacker we're in the running for. So I'm not sure. I noticed Josh Heupel visited a linebacker today at his school. I can't remember which one it was. It might be that guy, actually. But he was a 4-star linebacker. I can't remember who it was, though, unfortunately. Somebody can help me out in the comments there. Let's see. While I got a moment here, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the show. Since the last time we were live, major Tennessee news happened. The gentleman in the photo right behind my left shoulder well, it's your right, my left. That's a signed photo of Todd Helton. Congratulations to Todd. I'm sure he watches the Vol Bros. Congratulations to Todd for being inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. That is incredibly exciting. So unbelievably well deserved. Just super, super happy for him. So congratulations to Todd. Another thing that's happened since we've been live, last time we went live was Sunday night. And we said Sunday night that we could all expect to probably get a commitment from a 5-star quarterback out of Brentwood Academy Monday. Well, we did. George McIntyre is now Vol. What was fascinating about Monday was after he announced all the different players from all over the country who were tweeting, "Hey, essentially, I want to come play with you." You got 5-star offensive tackles and 5-star wide receivers talking about coming and playing with George McIntyre. So that's very encouraging if you're a Vol fan. So those are two big things that have happened. Let's see. Papa J said he got to see Todd Helton play quite a bit. That's awesome. Evan Myrick said, I think he's the only SEC player to be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
right.
Evan.
You're very close. He's only the second.
Evan. Right. That is such a Bama thing to say. The other one is Frank Thomas from Auburn.
Yeah. So you're right. He's only the second. That's it. Only the second. So huge honor for Todd. Carl said we got baseball in 22. Yeah, we're Tony Vitello days away from baseball right now. Tony Vitello days. Yep, the only 10 you see got it. That was the name. I remember it now.
Yeah,
Kelvin Riggins, 4-star linebacker. Yep.
He's committing tomorrow. He's announcing tomorrow night at 7:00.
Oh yeah, because that the post said that a lot of people think it's down to Tennessee or Texas.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see.
I'm just giving Evan a hard time, but it is fairly coincidental that a Bama fan just happens to forget that the other person who was there it is. The other person who was inducted is an Auburn alum.
That's pretty good. Yeah, Frank Thomas, he's pretty decent at baseball.
I'll tell you,
he can hit it a little bit.
The one that surprises me is Rafael Palmeiro. Like, how's he not in the Hall yet? That would be Mississippi State or Will Clark.
Definitely Will Clark. Rafael Palmeiro, they might, pull up all the steroid use and stuff, but Will Clark, I mean, come on, he's got to be in there. Evan said, sorry, I don't pay attention to baseball. Carl said he's also deciding between Texas A&M as well, the 4-star linebacker. The only 10 you see said, did we get in late with him? Honestly, I'm not sure. I think I saw one quote that said he's talking about how Heupel been in contact with him a lot.
Yeah. He's been around for a while. He visited back at the Georgia game. Like he's been in the mix for quite a while.
Let's see here. Oh, JL said, yeah, he's been here multiple times. Well, that's good. Hey, bring all the 4 and 5 stars, right? Elijah said he's an A&M lock, unfortunately.
We'll see. I don't say anybody's a lock anymore. In the NIL era, I mean, my goodness. Look, did you notice who Ole Miss signed last night? 2 of the starting offensive linemen from Washington, including their best offensive lineman. Who knows what these kids are going to do? And after watching multiple guys commit to Ole Miss, find out that their NIL packages were a lie, and bolt somewhere else, dudes are still signing with them. Like, do you not read? Do you not see the news? Like, how do you not know that 4 guys before you in the last month have signed with this school, found out that their NIL package was total BS, and bolted for somewhere else, but yet you still believe it's going to happen for you? Like, it's just mind-boggling to me.
So, Let's see. Eric asked if it was Nate Kalepo
Yep.
who they signed.
There's two of them. It was him and I'm blanking on the other guy's name.
HT14, we appreciate you joining us, buddy. Have a great evening.
But it was definitely, I mean, Kalepo's the reason they won the Joe Moore Award. He's a big time talent. And what's even weirder is, how did he not end up at Bama?
Yeah, that's my question, because Proctor's gone. You would think Kalepo would have ended up at Bama. Yeah, Eric said he was hoping Tennessee would get Kalepo. I mean, I figured it was a locked Alabama. Let's see here. Evan asked, "Is Nico the truth?" Unfortunately, I don't think we have enough sample size to say yes or no to that yet. What we have seen,
Julius Buelow. It was the other guard. The two guards both went to Ole Miss.
I mean, I would assume, based on what we have seen thus far, that Nico is the truth. But that leads us into Evan's other question that he asked earlier. And he said, "What are y'all's expectations for next year?" Well, it's hard to say anything about next year because we don't even know who's going to be on what teams yet.
Yeah.
But just for the sake of having fun, let's speculate wildly here.
Just look at the last 12 hours. Ole Miss just went from being a team that was pretty good but had a terrible offensive line to two of the starters from the Joe Moore Award winning offensive line is now starting for them. So, I mean, who knows what any of these teams are going to look like by August?
Yep, you're exactly right. So here's Tennessee's schedule next season, their football schedule. So this is going to answer Evan's question. What are our expectations for next year? I think we both agree they're going to beat UTC. NC State, I think that's a win. What do you think, Rustin?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think NC State can hang with Tennessee. Kent State, that's a W. First test really comes at Oklahoma on the road. Now, I would be more, obviously I'm concerned about every game, but I would be more concerned about this game if Oklahoma was in better situation than they're in. But Oklahoma is going to be breaking in a brand new quarterback, a brand new offensive coordinator, and an entirely new offensive line. Literally zero of their starters are returning from last year's team on the offensive line. So you have a brand new offensive line, a brand new quarterback, and a brand new offensive coordinator. I think we get a W in Norman, Oklahoma. What do you think?
I honestly am, for all those reasons and a few others, I'm actually not that concerned about this game. I think they're going to be struggling still to figure out who they are. I thought their offensive coordinator hire was weird. I thought it was a bizarre decision. And I'm an air raid guy. I love Seth Littrell. I love Mike Leach. But Oklahoma doesn't run the air raid. And Seth Littrell is a true air raid guy through and through. So, they don't have linemen that run the air raid. And they're already going to be bad at offensive line. Now you add the confusion of an air raid guy trying to get non-air raid linemen to block the way he wants. And it's very different. Like, people don't understand. It's air raid blocking is almost like running the triple option. Like, it's a completely different animal than most other offenses. And you got to have the right people. And I don't think they have the right people yet.
Then the next week we go to Arkansas. So back-to-back trips out west. Arkansas, who knows, man? Like, they'll have Bobby Petrino. We know that. KJ Jefferson, he's gone. So I think Tennessee gets a win here. I think it's a very close game because historically every game with Arkansas is extremely close. I remember the 6 overtime game they had one year. So I think they get a win, and that could be orange glasses. I don't know. But you got to think about what Tennessee has returning. They've got a 5-star second-year quarterback. They have a running back core that people are vastly overlooking. It still cracks me up that I see all these projections coming out about, like, a Tennessee fan the other day put out his projection and of Tennessee's, every offensive position and what stars they rated. Dude didn't even have Deshaun Bishop on the list for running backs. People just forgot about him. And if everybody remembers last spring when he and Cam Seldon both got there in the spring, Deshaun Bishop was getting in the spring game before Cam Seldon was, because he was playing better. Like, people are forgetting Deshaun Bishop, man. Don't be forgetting him, because he's going to be in the game. Like, there's no doubt about it. He will be in the game. So you got an incredible running back room coming back that no one knows about, and it baffles me. You've got what could potentially be the deepest wide receiver room in the conference.
I think it's the deepest in the country.
I mean, that's a fair statement, because you got 8 or 9 guys legit that could be starters anywhere. Then you've got, on the offensive line, we know now 4 of the 5 spots, and if Dane Davis starts at the other one, then you've still got a 6th-year senior starting at that one. Now, do they need depth there? Yes, but you've got, from left tackle to right tackle. Let's say Dane Davis is starting at left tackle, or excuse me, left guard. At left tackle, you got 5-star Lance Hurd. Then next to him, you got a 6-year senior. Next to him, you got a 6-year senior at center. Next to him, you got a 6-year senior Javonte Spraggins at right guard. And then you got a 6-year senior of John Campbell on the other end. 4 6-year guys on the line. That's good. On the defensive side, their defensive line is going to be must-see TV, man. Like, their defensive line is going to be so much fun to watch. Their linebacking core anchored by Keenan Peely and Arion Carter. Then you got Jeremiah Thielener and Elijah Herring. I mean, like, dude, that's going to be fun to watch right there. Especially with Carter and Peely and Thielander. Thielander is a beast, man. Then you got Caleb Perry, Jordan Thomas. No, not Jordan Thomas. Jordan. I can't think of his last name.
Jordan Ross.
Well, that'd be defensive line, yeah.
What position are you talking about?
Linebacker. There's another 4-star true freshman this year.
Jalen Smith.
There it is, Jalen Smith. I'm going to start with a J. Jalen Smith. I mean, like, there's some dudes back there. Then you've got, as long as the secondary, that's the only real question mark on the team. But as long as they got their act together and they've gone out and signed some really, really good additions.
I think they've addressed that. I like the 3 guys they brought in. There may be another one. Portal's not done. I like the 3 they went and got. I think they've addressed a lot of those issues.
So then after Arkansas, and Arkansas also is after a bye week, which that helps too.
Yep.
But then you've got Florida at home. I mean, I know it's Florida. I get that. And we always struggle against Florida. But my goodness, having them at home, we should win this game. Like, I mean, Florida's going to be struggling, man. They could have already lost 3 games by this point. So we have to win that game. This one is now more interesting to me, the Bama game in Knoxville. Previously, I had this as a loss. I can't say that definitively now. Bama still has some dudes, no doubt. I mean, they're one of the most talented teams in the country. But who knows what it's going to be like down there? Is DeBoer going to feel like Saban's looking over his shoulder at every moment? Because Saban will still have an office in the building. I mean, who knows what it's going to be like? You'll notice Kentucky is after another bye week in Neyland Stadium. Win. Mississippi State, win.
Our friends in Stark Vegas love it when we do that.
Yep. Georgia, I'm saying this one at Georgia is a loss. What do you think?
Yep. Before we had any of these conversations, I was saying 11-1 with a loss to Georgia. But, I mean, honestly, again, until August, we don't really know what any of these teams are.
Sure. UTEP, I'd say that's a win, and Vanderbilt, that's a win. So 10-2 is certainly on the table. I think if you go 10-2, you're in the playoff, and 11-1 is an outside possibility. That's my opinion on next year. I think 10-2 is probably a pretty good bet, but 11-1 is certainly a possibility. So some of the other people, some of the other comments coming in. Let's see. Evan said that he thinks Bama must be deep at offensive tackle with Proctor gone, or otherwise they don't have the money that they wanted.
I think it's more the second. Nick Saban complained a lot about Bama's NIL collectives, and I think we're starting to see that play out. They've missed on several transfers that they wanted, and it's typically coming down to NIL.
Let's see. Carl said Nico's a real deal. JL said Nico's a baller. Elijah said he thinks we're going 11-1. The only 10 UC said I expect Boo Carter to return at least 3 touchdowns. I love that. I love it. I'll be all about that. And legit, he might return one. I mean, like that's a pretty good bet. Elijah said it'll be difficult to face Justin Jolly again in week 2. Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. Dude was a player. Let's see. JL said going to be an interesting season for sure. Carl said Vols by 50.
In every game.
I think that was the Oklahoma game, because right after that, Papa J said, I hope we beat the brakes off of Oklahoma. Beat them by 50. Let's see. Carl said he thinks we're going 11-1. So both Elijah and Carl think we're going 11-1. Only 10 UC said I'm going to be focused on in-game adjustments. Don't think I saw us adjust to opponents all year. I want to know if that's because our team was limited or not. Let's see. That's fair. Absolutely. Papa J said, I don't think we had the talent in a lot of places, namely defensive back. I think that's what we're seeing now. And I think that was why Josh Heupel essentially recommended maybe that a lot of people transfer, because there's going to be other people coming in, and some of those younger guys are going to be taking their spots. Let's see. Only 10 UC said offensively we didn't adjust either, Papa J. Take the Alabama game, for example. We'll see if depth and talent changes things. That's an interesting point, because even that Alabama game was at Alabama last year, and we were up 20-7 at halftime. And so when we think about this year, they're going to be a potentially less talented team, and new head coach in Neyland. Tennessee arguably will be better than last year. Why can't Tennessee beat Alabama?
I also think when we talk about offensive adjustments, you also have to keep in mind the offense that we run. Like, there's not a whole lot of adjustments to make, because it adjusts on the fly. So, when we run routes based on where the defensive back is. So, when we call a play, all of our route calls are suggestions. They're not set in stone. And the receivers have the ability to break them off and run whatever route they want based on what the defensive back in front of them is doing. So from a scheme perspective, you can't really adjust route calls, because they're just running the opposite of whatever the defensive back does. From a run game perspective, that's probably the one place you can make a few adjustments, but it's going to be more around how linemen block things and how tight ends and or running backs help in the blocking game. Because running game wise, we pretty much either run zone read or some kind of a lead. So, anytime you call any kind of a lead play in our system, there's some offensive lineman that's raising up and pulling to lead, and everybody else is blocking the next gap. So you can't really adjust that. And when we run our zone game, it's literally just what some people call bang it, bend it, bounce it. You either bang it right up the middle because you see nothing. So you're just going to go get 3 yards, or you're going to cut it back underneath because you see daylight. That's the bend. Or everything gets cluttered up and you can bounce it wide because you see daylight out there. So it's bang it, bend it, or bounce it. And there's not really an adjustment for that because the running back's literally adjusting as they run. So there's not offensively, there's not a whole lot they can do to adjust anything because they feel like everything they do is an ongoing adjustment. Defensively, yeah, there's definitely a lot of things we could do there. But I think what Papa J said is probably right. I think our secondary limited some of the decisions we could make, and I think we shored that up.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment about the secondary for sure. JL said nobody on the outside after Brew went down. Joe was too indecisive at times. Small step back on O-line too. So, JL, are you referring to last year or this upcoming season about the offensive line? Because I think this upcoming season, our offensive line has actually gotten better.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider the only spot this year that was never solidified was left guard. And that's still the same case for next year, but all the other spots have gotten better for next year. Assuming we get one more in the portal, that spot should be better too.
I think he's saying this year we took a step back on O-line.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, from the previous year for sure, because you missed Jerome Carvin. Because I mean, there's your other guard, right?
Darnell Wright.
Last year, yeah, Darnell Wright, absolutely. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, I mean, you think about the year before that, you had Jerome Carvin and Javonte Spraggins at the guards. You had Darnell Wright at right tackles, Cooper at center, and Mincy and Crawford rotating at left tackle. I mean, that's a solid lineup. Carlson agreed about the Alabama game, but hard to tell. So many of their big plays, they were holding like crazy and no calls. Yeah, it'll probably still be that way next year. Hope not. Maybe DeBoer won't get the calls that Saban got. I don't know. But I definitely think that game could be a win for sure. Mino Laggy said this is going to be a fun season. I totally agree. Let's see. Elijah said DeBoer isn't going to have a Heisman level quarterback next year, so that game should be a win. I mean, they're still Bama. They're still got dudes,
So that's actually, I think, going to be the telltale of how Alabama does. How does Ryan Grubb mesh with Jalen Milroe? Because one thing you can say about Kalen DeBoer over the years, they have definitely adjusted to their players. They don't run a set system. They adjust to their players well. So it'll be interesting to see how Ryan Grubb adjusts to Jalen Milroe because he's not Michael Penix. They're two very different players. So
sure.
it'll be fascinating to see what they do to accommodate that.
Carl said he thought that Joe limited the play calling from 2022 versus 2023. I mean, potentially, it's fair. Let's see. Papa J said he thought Bama adjusted better in that game last year than we did.
Defensively, for sure.
Yep. She said, if that's the case, then we got to have smart receivers. And you're right, we do. Them and the quarterback have to be on the same page for sure.
Yeah, I think when you say an issue to have a scheme like that, it's not really an issue. Josh Heupel would say it's not limited, like it's actually unlimited because of their ability to adjust on the fly. A lot of it's just perspective on how you do things.
But those receivers and the quarterbacks do have to be on the same page, no doubt.
Yeah.
The only 10 you see thank you so much for that super chat. That is awesome. Thank you so much. We hope you have a great evening. Hope to see you Sunday as well. We'll be joined by Reed Carringer actually this Sunday, talking Vol basketball because Tennessee plays Vanderbilt in Nashville at 6 p.m. Eastern time Saturday night. And so we'll be going live Sunday night to recap that And I'll probably ask Green to give his top 5 plays of the football season as well, since we're doing
Don't
that
tell
tonight.
him. Put him on the spot and see if he can remember 5.
So we appreciate you so much, the only thing you see. That was very generous of you. Thank you so much. Papa J said Saban can hammer the refs now. Nothing will happen. You're right. That's exactly right.
Yep.
That's exactly right. Tony said 9-3 next year, 8 minimum. So Tony, I'm curious who your 3 losses are. Let me know who you think those 3 losses will be. Let's see. JL said we were terrible without Cooper at center when he was out. 100%. Yes.
That's my greatest fear for this upcoming year is they have to identify somebody that can be the backup center because the center is so important in this offense.
Amen. Yeah, we saw last year just how vitally important Cooper is. If he goes down, we're in trouble. Tony said the offensive line has to stay healthy. Cooper missed 2 out of the last 3 years. Need him to stay healthy and the tackles for sure. So Cooper has gotten injured a couple times. And it's hard for those offensive linemen not to get injured. Running backs, accidentally roll up on their legs, and defensive linemen other offensive linemen roll up on their legs. So you're right. It's not easy for them to stay healthy, but we desperately need specifically Cooper to stay healthy. I totally agree.
I feel really good about our offensive tackles moving forward. I mean, Lance Hurd is a big time talent. John Campbell's an absolute NFL guy. Sham Umarov, I thought, had a fantastic bowl game, and it was cool to see them get him a lot of snaps at tackle in that game. He's a monster of a man. So if he can play at a high level, he's definitely got the body. And then for those who didn't watch it, the Polynesian Bowl, Bennett Warren was a man among boys. He looked really good. I was shocked at how well he played, and it made me very comfortable with him for the next few years. He's going to be a big time talent.
So Carl agreed with you. He said we definitely need a true backup at center and a backup to the backup. Yep. Amen. Absolutely. Zach's here. Welcome, Zach. Good to have you, buddy. We're just about to wrap it up, but we're glad you're here with us. We know you work on Thursdays, so we're glad you're here.
Can I share a stat with you today? This is not football related, but this just blew my mind. Saw it this morning, and it's a good lead in to Tennessee playing at Vanderbilt tomorrow, actually, or Saturday. I mean, as of last night, hear this correctly, because this is like I had to listen to this a couple of times before it really clicked what they were saying. As of last night, the AP top 10 for the entire season, whoever's been in the top 10, on the road against unranked opponents are 17-24.
Good grief.
The AP top 10 on the road this season against unranked opponents are 17-24.
I wonder if that's ever happened before, literally ever.
If there was ever an indicator of how much parity is in college basketball now, that is it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So I hope it's not Noman for Saturday. But
yeah,
the reality is right now in college basketball, if you're a top 10 team on the road against an unranked opponent, the odds are against you. Who would have ever have guessed that stat?
Yeah, that's pretty wild. A couple of the comments, Tony answered my question. He said he thinks Georgia, Oklahoma, and Alabama are the 3 losses. He said, I know we could win 2 of those, but we're just not good on the road. Fortunately, we do get Bama at home, but we do have to go to Oklahoma. First true road test for Nico, actually. So that, that's always concerning when
you didn't consider the Citrus Bowl a road test?
No.
With both of Iowa's fans there?
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how Nico responds in that environment for sure. Carl said that Jordan Ross should have won the defensive MVP award in that Polynesian
Absolutely.
Bowl. Dude from oh goodness, what's his name? From On Three Sports was interviewed by Jason Swain and Josh Ward earlier this week. National Scouting Director. I can't think of his name. But he was talking about that bowl, and he said that there were times when he was watching that game and he felt like Jordan Ross was the best player on the field.
Yeah. Well, we said this the other night. Jordan Ross should have been defensive MVP, but they weren't going to give offense and defense to two Tennessee signees. Like
Yeah.
that's never going to happen because they're all about the ratings at those things. So, but the reality was the best offensive player on the field was absolutely Mike Matthews, and the best defensive player on the field was absolutely Jordan Ross. Like it was not close.
Absolutely. Tony said he hope we don't lay an egg against a team like we should be like we have the last 2 years. Totally agree. Like Florida last year.
I don't think we will. I'm assuming he posted that after I gave that 17 and 24 stat. So I'm assuming he's talking about basketball. But I don't see us losing to Vanderbilt even in the weirdest of circumstances. But that stat is pretty ominous.
Absolutely. J-Main 420. Welcome, J-Main. It's good to have you, buddy. That's a new name. I'm glad you're with us. He said the legendary era of Nick Saban is no longer. After going 16-1 against the Vols, the tide has turned. Absolutely. Zach said Ole Miss, Kentucky, and Georgia are looking soft after a good start, but the SEC is Tennessee. And J-Main said 15 back-to-back wins will no longer be on the Crimson Tide side. Jermod McCoy and Jalen McMurray are going to tear it up. Man, I hope so. They need them to, especially with Gabe Judy Lawley leaving. So for anybody who may not know who J-Main is talking about, Jermod McCoy is the defensive back transfer from Oregon State, who everyone is assuming will be a starting corner.
He will.
Jalen McMurray is a defensive back transfer from Temple. And there is another defensive back transfer that they got in this cycle as well, Jacoby Thomas from MTSU. And so, I hope, yeah, Tony said he was talking about football, Florida last year, South Carolina the year before. Yep, you're right. Hopefully we don't do that this year. I agree. Zach brought up a good point. I'm glad you mentioned this, Zach. So, when we were talking about the Oklahoma game, yes, it is Nico's first true road test, and that is never an easy thing. It never is. It does benefit Tennessee that Oklahoma will have a brand new offensive coordinator, a brand new quarterback, and an entirely new offensive line. But Zach brought up a good point. One of Tennessee's strengths going into that game is they got a coach who's super competitive, who does not want to lose to his former school.
Oh, not only does he not want to lose them, he hates them. I mean, there were some bridges burned there, and he and Venables are not on good terms.
Carl said Nico does not get rattled. I hope not. We're going to find out. We're going to find out in that game. Tony said NC State will be a good test too. I agree. I think that especially, it's a neutral site game. Obviously much closer to Raleigh than Knoxville in Charlotte there. So, that'll be essentially kind of a home game for NC State, but we all know Tennessee fans travel. And so it'll probably be a 50-50 split. But I just don't think NC State in the end is going to have the dudes to hang with Tennessee. What do you think, Rustin?
I think it'll be 3-1. It'll look like Neyland East. NC State fans just don't travel. They're not.
Well, they don't really have to Charlotte.
They don't go to Chapel Hill. It's 15 minutes down the road.
That's true.
They're just not. It's not a priority to them.
So I do think Tennessee wins that game. I think it will be close. But I do think Tennessee wins. Definitely less than 2 touchdowns for sure. Tony said, I think we win, but they're not a bad team. I agree. And they're well coached. So, I just think our athleticism ends up winning the game for us.
And depth.
Let's see. And depth, yeah. Eric said that stat about the AP top 10 is wild. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been fun. Tennessee plays basketball again Saturday night, 6 o'clock Eastern, against Vanderbilt in Nashville. So you got to deal with people on the opposite ends of the court instead of the sideline, which is always kind of weird. But, let's see. Carl said Tennessee by 28 against NC State. Woo, buddy. I hope you're right, man. I'd love it. That'd be awesome.
So I think the biggest issue for NC State is going to be, can they find a quarterback? Right. They haven't gotten one in the portal yet, other than the backup from Virginia. So, I mean, as of right now, if you look at their depth chart, Virginia's backup, the kid that lost the job at Virginia, is right now slotted as the starter at NC State. Yikes.
Yeah, not a good situation for him. Jay Main said, how about them basketballs? Absolutely. Absolutely. JL said, as far as football goes, we'll be scoring 40-plus points per game again. I hope so. I really do. They need to this year, because what in the world is the offensive line going to look like the year after that? So they need to do it this year. Let's see here. So, like you said, wow, they might need that. I'm not sure what she's referring to. Virginia's backup quarterback?
I was talking about transfer quarterback at NC State.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, they definitely need that. No doubt. I agree totally with her on that.
Yeah.
So, yep, that's what she said. A quarterback there at NC State. Yep. Definitely, they got to have. I mean, if the starter right now is the former backup at Virginia, yeah, they got some problems. They got some problems. So I hope everybody has a fantastic evening. We hope all of you join us on Sunday as well. Hey, Carl, man, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. You are very kind. Thank you. I agree totally. Go Vols. Absolutely. Less than a month away from baseball season. Basketball's 2 days away. Spring football starts within the next month and a half. Zach said Vols 16-0. Man, I hope so. That'd be wonderful. That would be wonderful. And you called it first, Zach. We will give credit where credit is due. Everybody can mark it down on January the 25th, 2024. Zach called it.
8 months early.
That's right. Absolutely. Like you said, go Vols. Absolutely. Absolutely. We hope all of you have a great, great evening. If you're thinking about spring break or summer vacations, I know a lady, one of our sponsors, Ginger Marvelous Mouse Travels. You can check her out at gingermmt.com. It actually is free to use her services, totally free. If you get on, she books Sandals, beaches, Disney, Universal. If you get on and try to book a trip on your own, you will pay literally the exact same price booking it on your own as you would booking through her. And the reason is because all those vendors build the price of a travel agent into the cost of the trip, whether you use one or not. So if you don't use one, you're paying for one, and you're not even getting what you're paying for, because you're paying for a travel agent. And so if you use a travel agent, then they just give that commission that they've already built into the trip to the agent. So you're paying for it whether you use it or not. So I'd recommend using her. She's awesome. Totally free to use her. J-Man said, this is America's team. In basketball or football or both. Definitely, they're the darling of the college basketball right now, how they play defense, and Dalton Connett. Zach said, I'm coming to Tennessee in February. That's cool. That's awesome, man. Carl said, have not missed a baseball game for 3 years. Can't wait. Retired 3 years ago. Hey, that's awesome. That's really cool. Absolutely.
Oof. Those February games are rough.
Let's see. Like you said, it's all football and basketball. They're America's team and all those things. I like it. Absolutely. Well, we hope everybody has a great, great evening. Hope all of you join us Sunday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, right here on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, YouTube, and Facebook. So hope everybody has a great evening. Go Vols, baby. We'll end it with the basketball outro since we got basketball in 2 days. So good night, everybody. I hope everybody has a great, great, great evening.